On page 120, the key point in our discussion is going to be case of crisis, how and what we shall do. Do we allow to extinguish some of the fire? Whatever left, where can we rescue? When it's come to basic food for Shabbat, when it's come to issue of scrolls, we also discuss an issue of a extreme complicated situation when it's involved with not only food but also clothing. But the first part, we complete the discussion of the previous page, which is the very end of 119 and beginning of 120, midrashic way in regard to the background of destruction of the city of Jerusalem. So 119, 4 lines from the bottom of the page. ואמר רב הלא חרבה ירושלים בשביל שפסקו ממנה אנשי המנה. The city of Jerusalem, Jerusalem, destroyed because it's either no longer a trustworthy people or people who have a faith. שנאמר שודדו בחוצות ירושלים וראו נא הודו ובקשו ברחובותיהם צמצאו אם יש איש עושה משפט מבקש אמונה ואסלח לה. Jeremiah said in chapter 5, roam about the street of Yerushalayim and see and search its plazas. If you can find a person who act justly, who seek integrity, that I shall forgive it. So that's the background of the destruction of the Yerushalayim. So it's that so. ואמר רב קטינה אפילו בשעת כישלונה של ירושלים לא פסקו מן אנשי המנה. רב יומי said that even at the time of a great crisis, the time that the holy city of Yerushalayim fall apart and failure, it was a trustworthy people that not seized there. שנאמר, he brought a sentence from Isaiah chapter 3, כי יתפוס איש באחיו בית אביו לאמור שמלה לך קצין תהיה לנו. So they said, for man will grab his brother and his father's house and say, you have a garment, come be a chief over us and let this room be under your care. דברים שבני אדם מתכסים בהם כשמלה ישנם בידיך. He meant to say that things that people use to cover up, for example a clothing, are in your hands and you are aware of them, so you should be a leader of the community. So they said והמכשלה הזאת תחת ידיך, and let this room be under your care. That pasuk meant דברים שהם בני אדם עומדים עליהם אלא אם כן נכשלים בהם ישנן תחת ידיך. We just turned to page 120, matters of Torah that people unfortunately not clearly understand them. Only they understand them in the hard way, which is they made a mistake and then they learn the way. The word of Torah, it's called, according to Rashi in Chagiga 14, it's called machshela, which means by making those failure, those mistakes, a person learn the hidden way, the deeper understanding of the meaning, which is when you do something, Rashi said, several times, and you made those mistakes, eventually you get to the point what is the right way. ישנן תחת ידיך קצין תהיה לנו. Because you understand better, you should be our teacher. Rise. יישא ביום ההוא לאמור לא יהיה חובש. So Isaiah chapter 3 said, so the brothers said at that day, I'll not be a ruler while my house there is no bread and no garment. So אין יישא אלא לשון שבועה. The term יישא means nothing other than an oath. Why? Because we said in this week's Torah portion, in the 10 Commandments, לא תישא את שם השם אלוקיך לשווא. Do not raise תישא, the name of the Lord your God, in vain. So that brother take oath to his relative and he said, לא אהיה חובש, I will not be a ruler, לא אהיה מחובשי עצמן בבית המדרש. I will not be one of those people who lock themselves in a house of study. ובביתי אין לחם ואין שמלה. In my house there is no bread and no garments. Meaning שאין בידי לא מקרא ולא משנה ולא גמרא. It's a metaphoric way to say I do not know neither Torah or Mishnah or Gemara. So therefore I cannot, it's like the brother taking an oath that he is not erudite, it's not familiar in the Torah. And without him taking an oath, the others do not believe him. So sometimes he just a great scholar, he's just hiding his knowledge. There's a famous Gemara in Bava Metzia 23b that said that there are some giant Torah scholars that are hiding their knowledge. So here he had to take oath. So even at the time that the Yerushalayim was falling apart, it was those great scholars that said that we are not fully committed to Beit HaMidrash to study. So that's according to Rav Ketina and not according to word of Rabbah. So they Rabbah. So Mimai, how do you know that's the situation? Dilma Shaneata, maybe over there the Amalu Gamrina, Amrulo Imalan. So if he said I know everything or I know a lot, so they said to him, okay, so start telling us. So therefore, Havalelememar Gamar Veshachach. He needs to say, I learn and because of all the circumstance, I forget. So at least he can be proud of his past studies. Mailo Yechovesh, what does that mean? I'll not be the one who rule. Klal, which means he didn't cover himself, he said the truth, that he never learned. So here we see a contradiction. So they said, Lo Kashya. It's not a difficult, it's not a question what Rabbah said. Kan b'divrei Torah, what Rav Ketina said, it's where they told that they were faithful, it's regard to matter of Torah. And Kan, in the word of Rabbah that speaks about the reason of destruction of Jerusalem, that no more people of faith in Jerusalem, he meant to say b'masa u'matan, that the matter of business. So then it's not like that. But the Maharsha said, inside the Beit HaMidrash, inside the place of studies, you find people who study Torah. So in conclusion, the Maharsha said that there is a long list of the reason why Jerusalem destroyed. He said very few people are very scrupulous in the matter of Shabbat, because they are not so familiar with all the halachot of Shabbat, and unfortunately the teachers at that time was not so, they didn't expose themselves and learn and teach others all the specific dinim in regards to Shabbat. Another reason, it was many people who went to a nightclub on Saturday night and get drunk, and therefore on Sunday morning they didn't wake up to say Shema on time. Sounds familiar? Another thing is, it was the Tinokot Shel Bet Rabban, little children that went to a cheder at the early stage of studies, and unfortunately it wasn't so popular, it wasn't so it wasn't reinforced and encouraged in the communities. Most of the time people waste their time going and traveling and doing all kind of vanities. Everyone wants to be a teacher and the head of the court, and they didn't differentiate between young and adult, which means they didn't appreciate, they didn't respect the people who way above the others. So people who basically have a very little knowledge in Torah, all of a sudden they want to be rabbis, teachers, people who sit in the court, etc. Everyone tried to show off with his Porsche, with his wealth. It's like a guy that driving Mercedes and he cannot pay the gasoline, but right. But as a result, these bring people to thievery. Those leaders intimidate by others, especially by wealthy people, and they didn't admonish the people who are doing wrong because they're always afraid of the honor of that person and they don't want to intimidate them. Those scholars who open the mouth and deliver a strong admonition, people don't like to hear that. People do not do a business transactions with faith. People dealt a lot with thievery, cheating, taking interest, and the Maharsha concluded and he said, those people who stand aside and partake of all of that, they are responsible. So the Rishonim said at the beginning of Yoma, he said that the destruction of the temple, that's common mistake, that thinking, oh, it's only happened in the past. But he said in any generation that the temple did not rebuild is the same as it's destroyed, which means if it's not changed, it's basically a continuation of that pattern. So that is our responsibility, our obligation to rectify those mistakes that happened in the past. Mishna. Matzilin sal male kikarot. Now we return to the subject we discussed in the past several days, which is, God forbid, in a case of fire on Shabbat, how a person should handle a crisis. So they said, even you have need just several figs, you don't need the whole pot, or you need one loaves, you're allowed to go ahead, one may rescue a basket full of loaves and the like from a fire on Shabbat, even אף על פי שיש בו 100 סעודות, even that they carried 100 meals, ועיגול של דבלה, וחבית של יין, even he needs one fig, or he needs one round cake of dry fig, or he needs a barrel, one little cup of wine. He can rescue the whole round cake, a whole full barrel of wine in order to get just one. So it means the idea is you rescue everything, and whatever you need, you take. ואומר לאחרים, and he said to others, בואו והצילו לכם. Come and rescue for yourself. So what is rescue for yourself? So the idea is that it has to be for 3 meals. Because what happened, the owner, he is thinking about the lost. Other people maybe run because they take advantage. They wish that the fire continues so they can take more and more things from the house. So the Rambam said in Hilchot Shabbat, chapter 23, that it has to be specifically only for 3 meals. That's what also Rabbi Akiva Eiger said. Ve'im hayu pikchim, and later we explain what does that mean. But in general, if people rescue him, were clever, which is just in just one word, they ask later a compensation as employee, and not to take whatever they rescue for themselves, which means they rescue things and you think they're taking it for themselves, and then after Shabbat they're going to send him an invoice for their labor. So עושים עמו חשבון אחר השבת. They come back after Shabbat and they said, hey, you owe me for all my labor. So again, it's important to know, the Rambam said in Hilchot Shabbat, that's applied to a place that carrying on Shabbat is allowed. or from one yard to another yard, when you have Eruvei Chatzerot, etc. And the Ran said, so here it's applied only to one act of rescue. Whatever he can rescue. The Maharan said, he said on the name of Rabbi Oshaya Mitrani, that's the quote he said. And he said he can save whatever he want to. Why? Because here is the difference. The owner, he is Bahul al Mamono, he's concerned about his money. Others, they don't. So others, the big thing is, since he is care, so he may wanted to do what? To extinguish. Others do not wish to extinguish the fire. So it's a concept we learn in the Seder Nezikin. There is a concept called Yeush. If person give up hope, Zuto Shel Yam, all kind of situations that the person said, I'm giving up. He sees the fire start taking place and continues, so he give up whatever left there. So when he asks other people to go and rescue it means that he already gave up whatever have there. So later you see a big discussion how those items, how we handle it. But one of the things that it's a big discussion between Rashi and others, it's at this time you said to a non-Jew, there is a concept called Amira Lenochri Shvut. If you're telling a non-Jew to do something for you, it's basically the same as you are doing it by yourself. The only different is if you said Kol hamatzil eno mafsid. If someone go ahead and rescue or take, he will not lose anything. So by saying that, he meant a lot of things, but the way that the Shulchan Aruch rules, he said that if other people wants to rescue, they should rescue only for 3 meals. That's the minimum needed for Shabbat. Then they ask, "Uleichan metzilin otam?" Where they rescue those items from the fire. So they said, "Lechatzer amurevet," the courtyard that they have. Eruv Chatzerot. Remember we discussed Eruv Chatzerot, that it's for several people together, so they can rescue it properly. Ben Betera Omer Af Lechatzer She'ena Ma'urevet. Ben Betera said that even they have a courtyard, that they have walls all around, but the people there didn't do the Eruv. So this prohibition is only rabbinic prohibition. So the Ben Betera hold that the sages are more lenient in regard to this situation of fire, in order for the people whose damage to save whatever they need in order to survive that Shabbat, such as 3 meals. Ulesham, and that spot. So the Shulchan Aruch Harav in Orach Chaim Shin Lamed Dalet, Seif Chet, in the Orach Chaim 3:34-8. So the Rav Balatanya in Shulchan Aruch Harav, he said that that's apply to that location that we allow them to rescue. Motzi Klei Tashmisho, he take those 3 meals that he needs, which means specifically and only Shulchan Aruch Harav said for the 3 meals, such as, for example, he needs a jar, he needs cups, he needs knives, utensils, Rashi said, etc. So all of that he can rescue. Do not mix it with regular clothing, because velovesh kol ma sheyachol lilbosh. For those garments he have in his house, he can pull on himself another garment, even 10 garments, one at the top of the others. Ve'otef ma sheyachol la'atof, and you take a rope, and you take a coat, as many as you can. If you go to Yerushalayim, you see the Rebaralach, some sect of Hasidim that they're wearing in Shabbat endless garments, one on the top of the others. It's like, looks like a pajamas. You remember you told me? It's in Yerushalayim, you see them. And then he come out. The reason that the sages are more lenient when it's come to garments, it's because they allow it only derech levisha, the Ran said, only the way people are wearing them. It's not that they carry them, they're wearing them. So he will not forget, he remember. But if he wants to carry with his hand, so the Pri Megadim said that he cannot do it, only what he need for Shabbat. So that's the reason why if you wearing them, so then you can take more, even to the courtyard that doesn't have an eruv. That's also the Bach said. Some said the different reason it's because some people need to change, a constant change, especially sweating and running around with fire. So since that happened, he can change garments as much as he like on Shabbat, and therefore the Beit Yosef said that even to a public domain he can do it. So ועוטף כל מה שיכול לעבור. רבי יוסי אומר 18 כלים. Rabbi Yossi said only 18 and nothing more, because the others it's carrying, it's not wearing it. As I said, you go to Jerusalem nowadays, you see some sects that wearing many garments, one on top of the others on Shabbat. וחוזר ולובש ומוציא, and now he may again put it on a number garment and carry it out. So now I ask you a question: is that line it's belong to this part or the first continuation of the first Tana in the Mishnah? What do you think? So the answer is a machloket. Rashi said that it's belong to Tana Kama, the first Tana in the Mishnah. And the Rosh and the Rambam said that that's what Rabbi Yossi said. That's continuation of Rosh Rabbi Yossi said. So the Rashba and the Ritva said that it's regardless if it's Tanakama or Rabbi Yossi. Because the idea is, they said, V'omer lachrim bo'u v'atzilu imi. And he said to others, come and rescue with me. Because levush, garments, clothing, you recognize more than the others. So Mishnah Berurah said if he needs to carry clothing, it's only the minimum needed. Other than that, it's a problem. So the Gemara said, "V'atanu lereisha shalosh sudot vetu lo." So what we said in the previous Mishnah, that you can do only 3 meals, and now you said it can take as many as even 100. Contradiction. Amar Ravuna lo kasha, kan beva le'atzil, kan beva lekapel. It's a different. There is one situation, is the person come and rescue. The other situation, he come for different reason. Why? He wants to fold it. So if he fold it, or when one come to rescue, he may rescue everything. But when someone come to collect, he may collect food for only 3 meals. So that's what they said. בא להציל, מציל את כולם, בא לקפל, לא מקפל 3 סעודות. So, תוספות, in 19b, said that it's not necessarily לקפל, it means collecting. Kipul in general in Hebrew is folding. So, the Chazon Ish, in Orach Chaim Samech, deal with all of that. He said that basically one basket it's okay, but many, if you need to carry more than one, the maximum it's for 3 meals. Another option, Rav Abba בר זבדה אמר רב, אידי ואידי בבא לקפל ולא קשיא, כאן לאותה חצר, כאן לחצר אחרת. So here he speaks about the concept called טרחה יתרה, that he is doing an extra effort, an extra labor. So here we have the chashash, the concern that he was going to carry in l'reshut harabim in the public domain. That's one concern. Another concern, that he may come to do what? To extinguish it. Or he may come to pull out things. Because let's face it, people sometimes, unfortunately, using crisis to take advantage of situations. How many times you're driving, you see a fire car or police car that try to find the ways, and they get the special lane, and all of a sudden one or two guys following them just to take advantage to circumnavigate the whole traffic. Correct? So that's common, that people taking advantage of crisis, unfortunately, to get publicity, to cut off, to do all kind of violations. So here you see a house on fire, God forbid. So other people go there and do all kind of violation. Can be, some rabbis said, extinguishing it. Some rabbis said that they carry in a public domain. Some rabbis said that they start collecting items and pulling it out. By Rav Huna, brother of Yoshua, Peires talito vekipel ve'eniach. If he folded, he sprayed his cloth on the ground and collected and placed the object in a cloak, vekipel ve'eniach mai, and collected and placed the subject inside it. And what's the ruling? What should do? Should he rescue that garment with all the others, that clothes, or not? Keva le'atzil damei or keva lekapel damei? Do you consider that as one who come to rescue it, or someone who come to collect? Mida marava at el rav shev zvi לרב חסידה ודרש ובלבד שלא יביא כלי שהוא מחזיק יותר משלוש סעודות. So Rav Chizda hold that the condition is he should not bring any cloth that can carry more than 3 meals. Shma mina keva lehatzil damei. So we learn from that it's the same as like one who come and rescue, that he may well do so. For example, you take a wine that dripping slowly, tick, 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 tick. So it's the same as you collecting all these items to the big cloth. So they said here, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak leRava mai teuta. So how do you know that it's a Rav Zivdi here made a mistake? אמר לי דקטני ובלבד שלא יביא כלי אחר ויקלוט כלי אחר ויצרף. כלי אחר הוא דלא, אבל באומנה הקמה דוואי מציל. He said, provided that he does not bring another vessel and place it in the ground to catch the liquid, so another vessel and attack the vessel next to the roof. So if it is another vessel that one may not bring, but in that same vessel one may rescue as much as he wants, and the sale is not established of maximum size of the vessel. So it means that unlike Rav Shizvi, that forbidden to carry more than 3 meals, even with one vessel. So that's the whole rule. So the only one vessel, only one kli, and but the Chazon Ish in Orach Chaim Samech explains that that's apply. It's only in a situation like that, in only this rare circumstance. But in that vessel, he can rescue whatever he wants to, just in that rare circumstance. So the Mishnah said, "Ve'igul shel dveila," and we learn in Mishnah that it's a round cake of a dry fig from a fire. So a person can even say to others, "Bo'u ve'atzilu lachem." V'im hayu pikchim, osim lo cheshbon achar Shabbat. If they're very clever, they should make an calculation after Shabbat. So the Gemara asked, "Cheshbon ma yavidte?" He said to the guys, "Come and rescue." And these guys pulling out things from the house. So what type of count they're going to do after Shabbat? He said, "Atzilu lachem, rescue for yourself. Be'efkerach kazachu." So these people get something from an ownerless property. So if that's the case, the Mishnah need to say that they are clever and they know all the halakhot of mamonot, so they take everything for themselves. So the truth is that several, the Bach and others said that it's all apply if you use the word lachem, rescue for yourself. So it means that in a way it's honorless. As we said earlier, it's yush. He gave up hope over things that these days. So he saw the house on fire, says, hey guys, come and pick up, rescue for yourself. So what do you understand? You can run in the fire and collect, and it's yours. Amar Rav Chizda midat chasidut shanu kan. Rav Chizda said that they taught us the attribute of piety, which means that yes, Yeush midat, if a person have a full capacity, he is not insane, he is not a mental case, he has his full mindset, and he gave up hope on something, so that item, that property is honorless. But if you go an extra mile to be a chassid, to be a pious person, so people understand the Ritva said that he didn't really give it to others because he wished to give all his belonging to others. Okay, that's not, like I read the other day in the post about a fellow that, God forbid, was diagnosed with terminally cancer. And he has nobody. So he gave to charity whatever, they gave him short time to live. So he gave all of his belonging to organization. So that's different, because he meant that. Even later on, they discovered that they can cure him, and he already donated whatever he had. So now you have issues, because he at that time meant to give it to everyone. But here, when he see all this great fire, he really gave up hope. But on the other hand, it was not from his good heart that he wants to give it to everyone. He just gave up in that very moment of crisis. So the definition of chassid, of pious man, is that he does not wish to drive any joy from money or property that belongs to others. That's chassid, that's a pious person that go an extra mile. So the big thing is, they said that they returned those items to him, Litva said, because people are pious, people are good, returned to him. But on the other hand, they said, look, we walk the whole day to pull out all this item from your property. We want to get from you payment for our time, which makes sense. So the Gemara have a problem with this. They said, Amarava Chasidei Agra leShabbat Shkale. You're contradicting yourself. You say that they are Chasidim, meaning a pious people, and the pious people meaning that they return those items, but by the same token, they want to get paid for the labors on Shabbat. If you tell me it happens during the week, I understand. But get money over work on Shabbat, even let's say you deserve to get paid. But schar Shabbat, get money for Shabbat, is not so simple to get. The GEMARA said in Ketubot 64 that even melacha muteret, even the labor that we allow, a person should not get a payment for Shabbat. Why? Because it's the boundary, the decree that people go to the next stage, which is start doing business on Shabbat, transactions. Or Tosfot and Meiri said that it's a peer, like they going to a business on Shabbat. It is a famous Rashi on the Tractate Beya 37a that deal with all of that. So they said, El amarava hacha birei shamayim askina. Velo nicha ledilitanim acherim. There are different dargot, different levels. There is a person that has a fear of God, and there is a person higher that is a chassid, that he is a real pious man. So we are talking not about Hasidim, we're not talking about pious people, we're talking about somebody who have a fear of God. So it's not someone who give up properties, who give up something that belongs to him, but he just rescue, but he doesn't want to derive joy from the money of others, but because he knows that the owner did not really gave up all his hope. On the other hand, he wants to get paid. And he doesn't want to get to work for nothing. Even the righteous person, the chassid, can do that. And that's what he means when the Mishna use the word im hayu pikchim. Ve'im hayu pikchim, if they are clever and what? In Hilchot Shabbat. So Rashi here used the word klomar. Again, I wish to have the time, but in my book, Birei Klomar Berashi al Shas, I elaborate in this Rashi. Rashi here used the word klomar and vehachi ke'amar. What does that mean when the Mishnah used the term im hayu pikchim, if they were clever? So I invited you to read it. But anyway, the Rashi, in a very abbreviation, try to say that if those people who are bekim, who are familiar with Hilchot Shabbat, the yadei the high gavna lav schar Shabbat, because they knew that this type of work, it's not considering a schar Shabbat, a payment for labor on Shabbat. Osim imo cheshbon achar Shabbat. They can make some type of calculation after the Shabbat. So someone who doesn't have any fear of heaven and any type of piety collect everything for himself. But here they just want to get the minimum payment for their labor. Ulechan matzilin. So which area they rescue? Ma'ishna acha dektane lachem u'ma'ishna atam dektane imi. What's the difference between the first part? They said that come and rescue for yourselves, and here we said come rescue with me. So אמרי לגבי מזונות קטן לכם, משום דלא כחזו למזון 3 סעודות, אבל לגבי גבושים קטן עימי, משום דכחזו לכל יום. When it's come to food, it's only 3 meals. So only 3 meals in it for Shabbat. So the sages not allow him to rescue more than that. So he cannot ask others to rescue for him only for themselves, because he allow only 3 meals. However, when it's come to clothing, to garments, so he can change garments all day long. So because it's suited for him for the entire day, so he can go ahead and he can ask others to rescue and use the word imi, come and rescue with me. Tanu Rabbanan lovesh motzi ufoshet v'chozer lovesh motzi ufoshet. Rabbi said he can come and change garments constantly. Even the entire day, that's the word of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yossi Omer 18 kelim. He said only 18 garments. And now we go to the 18 garments. And he said, Ve'elohim 18 kelim. These are the 18. Miktoren, אונקלי ופונדה קלבוס של פי 2 אנפיליות, מעופרת, 2 ספרקין, 2 מעלים, 2 אנפילאות, 2 ברגות, ברגו 2 מודנה וכובש ראשו וסדר שבצווארו. So here they bring the maximum clothing that people need, from cloak to cape to belt, white linen garments, robe, etc. 2 straps of the belt, 2 scarf, 2 boots, and belt around the line over the rope, and the hat at one hand, and scarf around one neck. So which means we go to the whole list that the people need for the garments, not to warm themselves, but just the garments. And the Igot Moshe said in Orach Chaim, in Kuf Yutet, he said that as long as he's derech levisha, as long as it's needed for his basic wearing, so he can go ahead and walk any place on Shabbat, because he need it for himself. Mishna, Rabbi Shimon ben Nas אומר פרוסים אור של גדי על גבי שידת דבר מגדל שאחז בהם ההוא. Rabbi Shimon ben Nas said that one spread out a moist goat's hide over a box, a chest or a closet that caught fire, because the fire sing and does not burn it, because the wooden vessels are preserved. מפני שהעוף הוא מחרק, ועושים מחיצה בכל הכלים בין כלים מלאים בין הרקנים בשביל שלא תעבור הדלקה. So they put a barrier, like a petition, between the fire with the vessels, both full and empty, so the fire will not carry on. רבי יוסי אוסר בכלי חרס חדשים למים לפי שהם יכולים לקבל את האור ונדבקים ומכבים את הדלקה. רבי יוסי forbids the earthenware vessels full of water because they cannot withstand the heat of the fire and they will burst and extinguish the fire, which is we are forbidden to cause the fire to be extinguished on Shabbat, even that it's indirectly. Later the GEMARA explain what's involved. אמר רב יהודה אמר רב טלית שאחז באו מצד אחד נותנים למים מצד אחר ואם כבתה כבתה, and it's not prohibited. So the Bet Yosef at the end of Shin Lamed Dalet in 334 he explained even eventually the fire will reach there, but he said if a garment that caught fire on the one side, one may place water on the other side, and if as a result the fire extinguished, it is extinguished, which means that it's not prohibited because it happens indirectly by force of circumstance. Meitivei talit she'achaz baro mitzad echad poshta umitkaseh ba v'im kavta kavta. So he said again, a garment that caught fire on one side, one may stretch it and cover himself with it, and if the fire extinguishes, extinguish. It's not that it in his intent, because he doesn't do it in order to extinguish the fire. The Taz said in Shin Lamed Dalet, he's just he tried to avoid the spreading of the fire. So that's, by the way, apply also to the Sefer Torah. וכן ספר תורה שאחז בו הוא פושטו וקורא בו ואם קבע קבע. Then God forbid, if the fire took place on a Sefer Torah, on the Torah scroll, so one may open it and read it, and if the fire extinguish. So the whole idea is what forbidden is to pour water, but one may perform a permitted act that will indirectly extinguish the fire. Who the Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Anas? Rabbi Shimon ben Anas said, we just turned the page 120b, that it's a gram kibui, which means it's not direct extinguishing, it happens indirectly. So he said that it's a permissible. Ein od Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Anas mnei shu mecharech gram kibui miyamai. The Rabbi Shimon ben Anas said because sings and does not burn. So did he has permitted indirectly cause a fire to extinguish? No. So they said, Ein. The GEMARA said yes, and I can show you. נקטן עשר רבי יוסי עושר בכלי חרס חדשים למים שהם יכולים לחבל את האור והמדקים מכבים את הדלקה. מחדנקה משארי. Because we have the opinion of Rabbi Yossi that he said, look, if you have an earthenware vessel, so if that earthenware vessel that's full of water, so it's forbidden. Remember that part? So it means that the other party disagreed and said that it's allowed. תנו רבנן, נר על גבי טבלה, מנער את הטבלה, והיא נופלת, והיא כבתה. So he said if it is a candle at the top of a board, one shake the board and the candle fall, and it is extinguished, it is extinguished. So Tosfot said here that it's only a situation that there is no oil left there, because the candle by himself, it's muktzeh. So אמרי דבר רבי ינאי, לא שנו לו בשוכח, אבל במניח נעשה בסיס לדבר אסור. It's all apply that if someone forgets the candle at the top of the board on Shabbat begin, but if one places it there, so the board become a base to forbidden object, so you cannot move it. Remember we discussed basis לדבר אסור, you have a base for forbidden object, so it's a problem. It's a muktzeh. You cannot move it, because if you have in the intent that you put something semuktzeh, so then you cannot move it. Tana, ner she'acharei adelet. You have a candle that in the back of the door. So the Rosh and the Rashba and Ritva explain that the wind came in and extinguished the candle. So they said, פותח ונועל כדרכו ועם כבתה כבתה. He can open the door like as usual manner, and if it happened, it extinguished. It means that we should not avoid ourselves from opening the door, because the person who opened the door, does not intend to extinguish the candle, but even the candle extinguished. That's the idea of Rashi in the Psik Reishe. Tosfot disagree with him. Anyway, Rav was furious, and Rashi said the curse whoever go by this statement, that you have a candle, you have a door, and you have a wind, so you open the door and indirectly the wind will blow up the candle. He was furious at that. Disagree. If somebody disagree with you, why are you cursing? Right? If because Rav hold Rabbi Yehuda, that דבר שלא מתכוון אסור, that if you don't intend to do something and something happen indirectly, it's forbidden. The Rav סבר like Rabbi Yehuda, ותנא קטן like Rabbi Shimon, and the first Tana hold the same as Rabbi Shimon, that he said that if it not intend, אינו מתכוון מותר. How come? משום דרב סבר like Rabbi Yehuda, כל תנא לרבי שמעון מית להתלה. So if someone disagree with him, he start cursing. And this is the case. Even Rabbi Shimon said that you cannot open and close that door. Remember we said he cut your head and the animal is not going to die. So it means that here it's obvious. You know that there's a strong wind. Woo, you hear the wind outside. And you see this is the candle. So it's obviously when you open the door, the chances that the wind will not blow up the candle is very little. So you're going to tell me, it's not intent to extinguish the candle, but that's the reality. So that's the reason why he cursed. He was so the Ritva asked, how come this Braita at the first place allowed to open the door? So some say that it's not Psik Reishe, because they said that it's not direct violation of a Torah prohibition, because he holds that melacha she'ena tzricha l'gufav, it's a type of labor that's not intended for that specific purpose. The whole idea is that they want to distinguish between biblical prohibition and rabbinics. Anyway, אמר רב יהודה, פותח אדם דלת כנגד מתורה בשבת. Rav Yehuda said a person opened a door opposite fire on Shabbat. Even you have now an issue of fire that the opposite way. That what's the fire? What's the wind going to do? They're going to basically expand the fire. They make it larger, bigger. Light ala Abai. Abai cursed that ruling. He said, what's this situation? If it's a regular wind, so why Abaye forbids it? Usually a regular wind is not expanding the fire, so it's not the issue of Psik Reishe. Psik Reishe said that the fire is going to be bigger and bigger and bigger as a result. If you tell me that God forbid a storm or hurricane or something like that, so that's wind for sure is going to expand the fire. Okay, that's the whole game of the fire, that you have the strong wind that blew it out of proportion. So they said, you have to say that it's a regular wind. And they said, Mar Savar Gazrinan, Mar Savar Lo Gazrinan. One hold that we put a decree not to open the door even in this situation. Why? Because then people going to open the door even for wind that it's rare wind, like strong one. And the other one was Rav Yehuda said, we don't put a decree like that. So basically halakha according to Abaye, that we're not allowed to open the door if it's a fire, even it's a regular wind. That's what Tosfot said. But if it's not wind at all, so for sure the Mishnah Berurah said that you're allowed to open the door. The previous situation, when you have a candle behind the door, the only issue is that the wind will extinguish the fire, because the candle will not expanded by the wind. The candle only extinguish from the wind. So that's different way you differentiate between extinguishing versus expanding. The the Mishnah said, Osim mechitza, one man establish a petition, a barrier, all earthware vessels, and Rabbi Yossi prohibited using a new earthware vessel. So the GEMARA asks, Lemema de Rabbanan Savre, which means that it's a sages, meaning Rabbi Shimon ben Anas, that garam kibui mutar, that indirect extinguishing is permitted. Rabbi Yossi Savar garam kibui asur, that indirect extinguishing is forbidden. Va'ipcha shamin lo. But in other brighter we learn the opposite. The Tanya osim mechitza bechilin rekanim malin shenarkam yishtaber. We make a petition in where? In a cross from a fire, in empty vessel, in the filled up vessel that usually they not break up from a fire. Ve'elu melein shenarkam yishtaber. Klei matachot. Give me as an example that one that not typically break. It's a metal vessels. So they said, Rabbi Yossi Omer, af clay, which means even an earthware vessel, kefar shichin uchlei, kfar Hanania and darkam lishtaber. He said that it's a village of shichin and a vessel visual of Hanania that not typically break. They make in those places some type of vessels that usually they are, Rashi said, that much stronger, that they not break up quickly. We may say that the whole Mishnah is go the opposite way, and to say that Rabbi Yossi is the one who allowed to put a barrier in all these vessels, and the sages forbidden to use earthware, brand new earthware. Rabbi Yossi, the Braita, and the Rabbi Yossi that allowed to use those special vessels from the town of Shichim or the town of Hanania, Ledivreim Kamar, he hold the same as the sages, but he himself allowed to use those vessels. So they said here, Mi matzit apachat lei. So can you turn around those opinions in Mishnah? He said clearly that Rabbi Yossi was the one who said that indirect extinguishing is prohibited. So Elias said that you not reverse the attribution of the opinion in Mishnah. Ubraita kula Rabbi Yossi, and the entire Braita is according to Rabbi Yossi. V'chasur mechasra ve'ak chektani, and that's the way you should. It's incomplete. You should learn it as follows: Osim mechitza beklim rekanim ubemeleim she'en darkam lishtaber. You should make a barrier in the empty vessels and full ones that not typically break. Velo en kelin she'en darkam lishtaber. Klei matachot, and here is example of vessels that usually are not break. Example is metal vessels. Those earthware vessels from the village of Shichin and the village of Hanania. Because Rabbi Yossi hold that even vessels from the village of Shichin and vessel of village of Hanania do not typically break. So now they ask, Rabbi Yossi. So now we have a contradiction between the opinion of sages in one location and the other, and the opinion of Rabbi Yossi in one location to another. The Tanya, here is the Braita. Harei she'aya Shem katuv lo al besaro, harei ze lo yichotz v'lo yasur. We are in an era that people writing on the body all different tattoos. I'm not here to say for or against that. Okay, but I think in our generation people will better comprehend it, which is, if one had a sacred name of God written on his skin, so they said he may neither wash it in water, lest it be erased, nor he may smear it with oil, nor nor he stand in a place of filth, because it is disrespectful for God's name. Clear? So, Noda Yehuda said that it all relates to using any one of the seven God's name in vain. That's, by the way, indirect, according to Noda Yehuda, to the first of the 10 Commandments, and the second, and etc., the first several commandments of the 10 Commandments in regard to using name of God inappropriately. Nizdamna lo tvila shel mitzvah. If he's in one of those state of impurity the Torah speaks, and he needs now to duck in the mikveh to immerse himself at that time, so what did he do? Korech alea gemi v'yored v'tover. He wraps a reed over God's name and then descends and immerses. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Rabbi Yossi disagreed, and he said, so first Rashi said that the whole assumption is that the name of God will not erase if he covered that. So Rabbi Yossi said, L'olam yored v'tovel kedarko ulvad shelo yishafshef. He said actually he descends and immerses in the usual manner, even if it is not an immersion of a mitzvah, provided that he does not rub the spot and erase the name. So again, the assumption is that tattoo, it's a light one. I'm not so familiar with tattoo, I have to confess, and I do not have tattoo, but I have other people I know that have tattoos. So I learn indirectly that there are different levels of those things. If I'm not mistaken, one morning Dr. Green tells us, as a cosmetic surgeon, he gave us a big talk after davening that the different level of that tattoo, if you remember, that those that it's easy to take out, and those that need the complicated laser plastic surgery, etc. So the assumption is that he does not rub the spot and erase the name. So Rabbi Yossi's opinion is that it's more lenient, that the sages with regard to indirectly causing a prohibited outcome. So they said Shane Hatam. Here it's different when erasing name. The Amar Kra, the Torah said in Dvarim, Deuteronomy chapter 12, they said Ve'ibadetem et shmam min hamakom hahu lo ta'asu ken laHashem Elokechem. So they said, we are commanded, the Jewish people, when they enter the land of Israel, the Holy Land, to expunge all the idol worship. So we said, the Torah said specifically, you should get rid of all the idols in the land, but you shall not treat the name of God in that manner. So you go via negativa from the language of ta'asun. So what does that mean, ta'asun? Asiya hu da'asu grama shari, which means that they're actually doing that which is prohibited, but indirectly causing the result is permitted. So they said, if the language of ta'asun, it's hachaname iktiv, it's written in Shabbat, in these 10 commandments we're going to read in Hashem this Shabbat, in the book of Shemot in Exodus 20, Lo ta'aseh kol melacha, you're not allowed to do on Shabbat any type, perform any labors. So here too one could derive what? Siyaudasu, grama shari, performance that it was prohibited, but indirectly causing a prohibited action, it's maybe permitted. So they said, listen, mitoch she'adam ba'ul al mamono, because people, when it's come to losing money, people behave a very different way. So a person is very agitated over his property, that's now we see the fire. Let's face it, the minute you say yes for something like that, guess what he's going to do? He's going to be so agitated, he's going to extinguish the entire fire on Shabbat, which is a violation. So he said, so now we contradicted what the sages said in one location to another. That if you say that over there that the person is agitated over his property, nevertheless the rabbis hold that indirect extinguishing is permitted. Hacha, here in the raising name of God, that the person is not so agitated. Lo kol sheken, so we not allow it to permit it to indirectly cause to erase the God's name. So why the rabbis are so stringent in that? V'tizbera. Maybe you said that the reason is Hai Gemi So it may you say that here it's this reed which the God name is covered while ducking, while immersing in a mikveh. You know that when you duck in a mikveh, you should not have any chatzitza, which is a partition. So, for example, when women needs to go to a mikveh, they cannot carry those rings. They need to pull out even the wedding ring, so it will not be any separation between the water of the mikveh and the body. So that's called chatzitza. You cannot go and duck in a mikveh with your watch. So they said if you have these reeds, it's chatzitza. So if he's not tightening it, it's ayle beimaya. So the water will come in and erase the name. So either way it's not good, right? Either it's chatzitza or the water come in and erase the name. So they said chatzitza tipuk le mishom dio. So you may say that the problem is not the separation, but it's because you have the ink on the skin. So what's the issue? So you have the name of God on that ink, and that's basically a separation between his skin and the water. So they said belacha, when that ink it's soft. So what happened? Letanya adam v'adyo v'advash ve'chalav yeveshin chotetzim lachim en chotetzim. We said in different braita that blood and ink, honey, milk on a person's skin, when they are dry, they interpose doing the ducking of the mikveh, doing immersion, but when they are moist, they do not interpose. So it's not the issue of chatzitza. Mikol makom kasha, but anyway, the question left, also why you need to have these reeds around that name of Hashem. Now we have a different story. You cannot stand and be naked when you have the sacred name of God. The Torah said in Deuteronomy 23, because the Lord your God walk within your midst, you should be holy, you should not be naked when is the God presence there. It's very inappropriate. So Michlal de Rabbi Yossi Sabar Mutar Lamod B'Shel Hashem Arom. So you're going to tell me that Rabbi Yossi disagreed and said that the person can stand naked when they have the name of God? It's impossible. That we just said that it's forbidden. So they said the manach yedei lavei. Guess what he's doing? He put his hand and he covered the name of God when he's ducking. So if that's the case, the Rabbanan Namid the manach yedei lavei. So if so, according to the rabbis, it should also be sufficient for one to place his hand over it. So they said, Zimni the mishtare v'shakilei. Sometimes you forget, and then he's standing naked when they have the name of Hashem. So therefore they require to put a gemi, to put a little reed on that spot that they have the name of God. So that's the case for Rabbi Yossi Siname Zimni mishtare v'shakilei. So if this, according to Rabbi Yossi, is also concerned because sometimes one will forget and remove his hand. So why Rabbi Yossi is not concerned about it? So if they have these reeds, so the same thing. Here we're dealing with the case that one should have to seek a reed. So the Rabbanan Savre, in that situations, the rabbis hold Tvila bezmana alav mitzvah umehadrinan. ורבי יוסי סבר טבילה בזמנה מצווה ולא מהדרינן. So the performing immersions in this designated time, it is not a mitzvah. And one will seek a reed to wrap around the God's name, even it means postponing immersion for the next day. So Rabbi Yossi hold that immersion designated time, it's a mitzvah, and we do not seek a reed, since immersion can be postponed. וסבר רבי יוסי תבילה במצווה, so Rabbi Yossi hold that immersion in designated time is a mitzvah. והתניא עזבה והמצורעת בועל נידה וטמא טבילתן ביום, נידה ויולד טבילתן בלילה. We have all this list that is the time of immersion is the day, and the nida and the woman that deliver a baby it's at night. בעל קרי טובל והולך כל היום כולו, and one who saw a carry, so you have a semen coming out, so it's a seminal immersion immerse at any point during the entire day after the immersion. Rabbi Yossi אומר, מן המנחה ולעלה צריך לסבול, from the time of the recite afternoon prayer and does not need to immerse. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda אמר דיית טבילה באחרונה. This is according to Rabbi Yossi, son of Yehuda, that said her latest immersion is sufficient. A woman that is uncertain with regard to correct time for her going to a mikveh, so need not immerse multiple times. So she may postpone the immersion until the time when she was certain to fulfill the obligation, even though it might not be immersion at the designated time. The first halakha we learn that matzilin sal, one may rescue a basket. The Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 334. They said it is permitted to rescue a single vessel from a fire, even it contain enough food for 100 meals, and you need only one. One may only rescue object that's different by moving them into a courtyard that is joined in the owner's courtyard by an eruv. That's the first Tana. But it said it's permitted to rescue eating utensils. That's the Magen Avraham said, needed for the entire day, and carry them to a courtyard that is joined to the owner's courtyard by an eruv. One may want to rescue clothing from a fire, may put on garments, walk to a safe place, undress, return, and put another garment. As stated in the Mishnah, there is an opinion that ascribed to the phrase, one may again put a garment, in the Mishna to Rabbi Yossi, indicating that repeated trips to save clothing are permitted. However, since the halakha is not according to the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, in a dispute with an unattributed Mishnah, it is permitted to return and put on garment only one time. That's Bet Yosef said, but based on the Rambam. This approach was not accepted in the normative halakha. Now, one who seeks a rescue object from a fire at Shabbat by spread out a cloth and place many items in it, provided that they are removed all at once, that's according to the opinion of Rabbah. And that's also the Rambam Hilchot Shabbat, chapter 23. Now, if one tells others, come and rescue for yourself, they can put on whatever clothes they want and are permitted to keep anything they rescue. If it is that they acquire ownerless property, so it's ownerless property, so they can take whatever they want. If they want to return the object later and be rewarded for the effort, they may do so. That money will not consider a prohibited payment for labor on Shabbat. But it's not, I will say this, that's a level of piety for people to ask for payment in that manner. But anyway, it's permitted. If a chest caught fire, it is permitted to spread wet goat's hide or the like on the part of the chest that is not on a fire to prevent the entire chest from burning. That's the Rabbi Shimon ben Anas. And also it's permitted to erect a barrier to stop a fire from spreading using any type of vessel, including new earthenware vessels filled with water, because it is permitted to indirectly extinguish a fire. Some authority, like Mordechai, states that this is only permitted in a situation when otherwise one will suffer significant monetary loss. So the great difficulty to understand that is an example, if you have one forget a candle at the top of board before Shabbat, and he needs the board on Shabbat, so he may shake the board so the candle falls. If the candle was burning, he is permitted to shake the board only provided that he does not intend to extinguish the candle. This rule applies only to a wax candle. However, an oil lamp that is burning may not be shaken off a board, since it will certainly decrease the flame. That's what the Tosfot and Rosh and Ran. Nevertheless, even with regard to wax candle, it is preferable to have a non-Jew to shake it on a board, as the Kolbo said. And if one did not forget the candle on a board, but left there intentionally, it is prohibited to shake it off, since the board itself is a base for a prohibited object and may not move it. So that's the Rabbi Yanai. Ner machorei hadelet, if there is a candle lamp behind the door, it is prohibited to open the door in a usual manner because it might extinguish the flame. The same applies to a window as well. This is according to Rashi's interpretation of the opinion of Rav. If the lamp set into the wall behind the door, and when open the door will bang into the candle and extinguish it, one must open and close the door gently so the door will not touch the candle. If the candle is set into the door itself, it is prohibited to open and close the door. That's what the Tosfot said. Now we're going to the last halacha. We're dealing here with two things. Number one, if it's the name, the sacred name, on one who has one of God's sacred names written on his skin, may neither wash nor smear oil on himself. The person may not stand in a filthy place. When immersing in an actual bath, he must wrap a reed around the name. This reed may not be attached so firmly so they interpose between the water and his skin. The rationale for wrapping the reed over the name, it's because it's prohibited to stand naked before the name of God. That's the opinion of the rabbis, and they said that it's part of what we call chatzitza. When immersing in a ritual bath, blood, ink, honey, and milk, as well as fig and berry nectar, interpose when they are dry, but not when they are wet.
Mishna